You know, there are moments in professional wrestling that you don't see coming. Moments that hit you so hard, so fast, so violently, that you forget you're watching a scripted sport. You forget the lights, the cameras, the production crew. You forget everything except what's unfolding right in front of your eyes. And then there are moments that feel like the universe itself stopped, looked down at a wrestling ring, and said, yeah, that's exactly what I had in mind. What happened when Bron Breakker came face to face with Brock Lesnar? That wasn't just a confrontation. That was a collision between two forces of nature that had no business being in the same building, let alone the same ring. And when it exploded, and believe me, it exploded, the entire landscape of Wrestlemania 42 changed forever. Welcome back to Wrestling Apocalypse. I'm your host, and if you are new here, you picked the perfect time to show up. Because today, we are breaking down one of the most jaw-dropping, pulse-pounding, bone-rattling brawls that professional wrestling has produced in years. We're talking about the night Bron Breakker looked Brock Lesnar dead in the eyes and did not blink. The night a new generation didn't just announce itself. It grabbed the old guard by the throat and refused to let go. Strap in. This one goes deep. Let's rewind the clock a little bit, because you cannot understand the magnitude of this moment without understanding the two men at the center of it. Brock Lesnar. You already know the name. You already feel the weight of it when someone says it out loud. Brock Lesnar is not just a professional wrestler. Brock Lesnar is a phenomenon, a once-in-a-generation physical specimen who broke through every barrier this industry put in front of him and kept walking. A man who conquered NCAA championships, conquered UFC championships, conquered every heavyweight title this business has to offer, and who has made world-class athletes look like amateurs with his bare hands. For over 2 decades, the mere presence of Brock Lesnar on a card has shifted everything. When his music hits, when that titan walks through the curtain, the air changes. The crowd changes. The entire energy of the arena tilts on its axis. People stand. People scream. Some people genuinely look a little scared. And they should be, because Brock Lesnar has proven time and time again that there are no rules when it comes to what he's willing to do. And then there's Bron Breakker. If you have been sleeping on Bron Breakker, I want you to wake up right now. Wake up and pay attention, because this man is something different. Something the wrestling world doesn't produce very often. He is second-generation royalty, the son of a legend, carrying that bloodline in every single fiber of his being. But make no mistake, Bron Breakker is not riding anyone's coattails. He has forged his own identity with his own 2 hands. The intensity, the athleticism, the absolute relentless aggression that he brings to every single outing. You look at Bron Breakker move and you don't see someone who learned how to wrestle. You see someone who was born to destroy. He sprints like a freight train and hits like one too. And for the past couple of years, the conversation around Bron Breakker has been the same in locker rooms, in arenas, in living rooms across the world. This kid is the future. The only question was when. When was Bron Breakker going to stop being called the future and start being the present? Well, the answer came in the most spectacular and violent way possible. It started, as so many great stories do, with a moment of absolute silence before the storm. The weeks leading up to this confrontation had been building a pressure that wrestling fans could feel even through their screens. Bron Breakker had been on a rampage. There's really no other word for it. Week after week, he had been dismantling opponents, sending messages, putting the entire locker room on notice. The intensity in his eyes every time he spoke, every time he stepped through that curtain, was not the intensity of a man who was hungry. It was the intensity of a man who was starving. And when Bron Breakker is starving, somebody is going to get hurt. And then words started filtering through. Whispers in the industry. The kind of whispers that make your spine tingle. Brock Lesnar was returning. The beast incarnate was coming back. And when that news broke, the question that every wrestling fan immediately asked was not what is Brock Lesnar going to do. The question was who is going to be in his way when he gets there? The answer, as it turned out, was Bron Breakker. Now, I want you to picture the scene. And I want you to really picture it. You're in that arena. You're surrounded by thousands of people. You can feel the bass of the sound system in your chest. The lighting is perfect, the dramatic combination of shadow and spotlight that makes the ring look like the center of the universe. Bron Breakker is in that ring, and he is doing what Bron Breakker does. He is cutting a promo that is all raw, unfiltered energy. He's talking about being the best. He's talking about there being nobody on this roster, nobody in this company, nobody anywhere, who can step to him. The crowd is buzzing because they know something you know. They know what's about to happen. And then it hits. That music. The arena does not just react, it erupts. And when I say erupts, I mean the kind of eruption that you feel in your chest before you hear it. The kind of crowd reaction that makes the building shake. Because when Brock Lesnar walks through that curtain, he doesn't just walk, he arrives. Every single person in that building, whether they love him or hate him, or some complicated combination of both, turns their attention to that entrance ramp and does not look away. Brock Lesnar walked down that ramp and the silence that fell over Bron Breakker was electric. Because Bron didn't run. Bron didn't back up. Bron Breakker stood in the center of that ring and watched Brock Lesnar approach like he was watching something he had been waiting his entire life to see. And maybe he had been. The two men came face to face in that ring, and the tension, I cannot overstate how thick the tension was. You're talking about one of the most decorated and feared competitors in the history of this business standing across from a man who genuinely might be built to end that legacy. Two brick walls about to make contact. Two immovable forces about to discover that one of them, actually, can move. The crowd was barely breathing. Commentary had gone almost silent. There was a moment, just a moment, where it seemed like maybe cooler heads would prevail. Maybe words would be exchanged. Maybe this would be a confrontation that simmered instead of exploded. And then Brock smiled. You know that smile. That insufferable, arrogant, dismissive smile that Brock Lesnar has worn at every person who has ever dared to stand in his way. That smile that says, I don't see a challenge here. I see a problem I've already solved. He smiled at Bron Breakker like he was looking at someone who hadn't quite figured out that they were out of their league yet. Bron Breakker's expression did not change. His jaw tightened. His eyes did not leave Brock's for a single second. And then Bron said, and I want you to really hear this, he said, you think this is funny? Good. I want you laughing when I take everything you've got. The crowd lost their minds. And Brock Lesnar's smile faded. What happened next is the part that wrestling fans are going to be talking about for a very long time. Because Brock Lesnar, being Brock Lesnar, did not respond with words. He responded the only way Brock knows how to respond. He shoved Bron Breakker. Hard. The kind of shove that sends a message. The kind of shove that says, let's see what you're actually made of. Let's see if you're going to fold right here in front of all these people. Bron Breakker did not fold. Bron Breakker came back with a shove of his own, and I want you to understand Brock Lesnar actually moved. Brock Lesnar, who has thrown around men twice the size of most people on this planet, actually moved. And the look on his face in that moment was something I don't think anybody in that arena had ever seen before. It wasn't anger. It wasn't amusement. It was something that looked, just for a fraction of a second, like genuine surprise. Like the beast Incarnate had just encountered something it hadn't fully calculated. That was all it took. The brawl that broke out was immediate, violent, and completely uncontrolled. We're not talking about a scripted exchange of moves. We are talking about two massive human beings deciding in real time that the rules of engagement had just been suspended. Brock threw a forearm that could have leveled a building. Bron caught it, grabbed Brock around the waist, and drove him into the corner with the force of a wrecking ball. The ring ropes shook. The turnbuckles shook. The entire structure seemed to complain about the weight of what was happening inside it. Security came pouring out from the back. Now look, I've watched wrestling for a long time, and I have seen security swarm a ring more times than I can count. Most of the time, it's choreographed chaos, controlled disorder. But this looked like people genuinely did not know how to stop what was happening, because Bron Breakker was not calming down. Every time a security guard got between him and Lesnar, Bron moved them not aggressively toward them, but through them, like they were furniture he needed to rearrange to get back to the thing he actually wanted. And Brock, to his credit, was not exactly cooperating either. He was fighting his way toward Bron with a focus that told you everything Brock Lesnar had found his next obsession. More officials. More security. The crowd absolutely beside themselves. And through all of it, through all the chaos and the noise and the bodies piling up between them, Bron Breakker pointed at Brock Lesnar and shouted two words that the cameras caught perfectly. Wrestlemania. The crowd response to those two words was nuclear. Because everyone in that building understood exactly what they had just witnessed. This wasn't just a brawl. This was a declaration. This was a young lion not just challenging the alpha. This was a young lion looking the alpha in the eye and telling him, I'm going to be the reason you're never called the alpha again. Now let's talk about what this Wrestlemania challenge actually means, because I think it's worth slowing down and appreciating the stakes here. Wrestlemania is not just the biggest show of the year. Wrestlemania is the canvas on which legacies are painted. It is the stage where careers are defined, where moments become immortal, where names get carved into history forever. When you think about the greatest WrestleMania matches in the history of this industry, you're not just thinking about matches. You're thinking about moments that transcended wrestling, moments that got casual fans jumping out of their seats, moments that made people who hadn't watched in years tune back in because the word of mouth was too loud to ignore. A Bron Breakker vs. Brock Lesnar match at WrestleMania 42 has the potential to be exactly that kind of moment. Think about the storytelling engine that's already been built here. You have Brock Lesnar, who has defined himself as the man nobody could stop. The man who has crushed legends, who has manhandled champions, who has made a career out of being the most physically dominant performer this business has ever seen. His entire identity, his entire brand, is built on the idea that he is on another level. That the gap between him and everyone else is not a gap, it's a chasm. And then you have Bron Breakker, whose entire story is about refusing to accept that any chasm exists. Bron doesn't see Brock Lesnar and feel intimidated. Bron sees Brock Lesnar and sees a measuring stick. And not just any measuring stick, the ultimate measuring stick. If you want to prove that you are the best, you don't beat someone who's pretty good. You beat the man who built the standard. You beat the man who wrote the definition of dominant. There's also the generational narrative here, and I think this is what gives this potential match an emotional layer that goes beyond just two big guys hitting each other hard. We are at a genuine crossroads in professional wrestling. The old guard, the legends who built this industry into what it is today, are still here, still operating, still absolutely capable of delivering on the biggest stages. But the new generation, the next wave of talent that has been developing and sharpening itself, they're ready. They've been ready. And there's a certain electricity that comes from watching a young competitor not just say they're ready, but prove it in real time. Bron Breakker vs. Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 42 is not just a match, it's a referendum. It's wrestling asking itself, are we ready to turn the page? And if the answer is yes, then Bron Breakker has to be the one who turns it. Now, let me give you a little insight into what the strategy has to look like for both men, because this is not a match where you just walk out and improvise. Both of these competitors have specific strengths and specific vulnerabilities, and whoever does the better job of maximizing one and masking the other is going to walk out of WrestleMania 42 with their hand raised. For Brock Lesnar, the game plan is almost always the same because it almost always works. Control the pace. Slow the match down. Take away the explosive, high-energy offense of your opponent by cutting them off early and working the physical aspects of the match. Brock is at his most dangerous when he is dictating tempo, because Brock's tempo is suffocating. He wants to pick you up and put you down, repeatedly, until there's nothing left. The suplex machine narrative is not accidental, it's a philosophy. Wear them down. Break their spirit before you break their body. And the F5 as the finishing exclamation point is one of the most over finishers in this industry for a reason. It's spectacular, it's sudden, and it represents Brock's ability to end a match at any moment. For Bron Breakker, the counter philosophy is about refusing to let that happen. Bron's greatest weapon is energy and aggression. He can't let Brock slow things down. He needs this match to be a war from the first bell, constant movement, constant pressure, never giving Brock a moment to reset. Bron's spear is one of the most devastating moves in wrestling right now. That is a weapon that needs to be featured early and often, because a spear from Bron Breakker is not just a move, it's a message. Every time he hits it, it says, you cannot stop me, you cannot get out of my way. I am coming through you, not around you. The key moment in this match, when it happens, is going to be the moment that decides everything, the moment where Bron survives something that should have ended it. Because that's the WrestleMania formula for crowning a new star. You have to survive the thing that was supposed to kill you. You have to take the best the legend has to offer and kick out at 2. Because when the crowd sees that, when they see Bron Breakker absorb an F5, or survive a German suplex that rattled the whole arena, and then start getting back to his feet, that is when the building transcends. That is when wrestling magic happens. And here's the thing about Bron Breakker that I think makes this match genuinely unpredictable in the best possible way. He is not afraid to hurt. He is not afraid to take damage and fight through it. There is a toughness to Bron Breakker that is not manufactured. You see it in the way he moves, even when he's selling, even when he's absorbing punishment. There's a look in his eyes that says pain is not a deterrent. Pain is fuel. Brock Lesnar respects that. He's going to have to. Because the Brock Lesnar playbook against opponents who are easily intimidated is very different from the Brock Lesnar playbook against someone who feeds on the chaos. And Bron Breakker feeds on the chaos. The WrestleMania 42 stage is going to amplify every single element of this rivalry. The stakes, the emotion, the crowd heat, all of it gets turned up to a level that the regular season simply cannot match. WrestleMania crowds are different. WrestleMania moments hit different. There's a reason that some of the most iconic images in wrestling history are captured under those WrestleMania lights. Because something about that specific stage unlocks something in competitors that you cannot manufacture anywhere else. I genuinely believe that a Bron Breakker vs. Brock Lesnar match at WrestleMania 42, if built correctly, if executed with the full weight of what both men bring to the table, could be one of the defining matches of this era. I'm not saying that lightly. I'm saying it because the ingredients are all there. The physicality, the narrative, the generational stakes, the unpredictability. You don't need a lot of extra decoration when the core ingredients are this powerful. And let's talk about the crowd reaction for a moment, because I think that's something that deserves its own focus. Wrestling is, at its core, a performance art that lives and dies on the response of its audience. And the response to this confrontation has been one of the most organic, electric reactions we've seen in a long time. Social media has been on fire. Fans who haven't been this excited about a potential WrestleMania match in years are suddenly talking about little else. Wrestling forums, comment sections, group chats, everywhere you look, people are asking the same question: is this the match that makes Bron Breakker a generational star? The answer, if this builds the way it should build, is yes. There's a version of WrestleMania 42 where Bron Breakker pins Brock Lesnar, stands over him under those lights, and the wrestling world shifts on its axis in real time. There's a version of this story that becomes a before and after moment, the moment that people point to years from now and say, that's when we knew. That's when Bron Breakker became the face of this era. And if you're a wrestling fan who has been waiting to see the torch passed, not just handed over politely but ripped away by someone who earned the right to carry it, this is the match you've been waiting for. But let's not forget, Brock Lesnar does not make things easy. He never has. He never will. The Beast Incarnate has been in situations where every logical narrative said his reign was over, and he found a way to walk out with his hand raised anyway. He has survived upsets, survived title changes, survived what seemed like definitive endings, and come back harder. Brock Lesnar has a talent for making his stories complicated in the best possible way. And that's what makes this a genuine contest rather than a foregone conclusion. Bron Breakker challenging Brock Lesnar is not a guaranteed victory. It's a mission. It's a quest. And the road from where Bron is right now to where he needs to be when that bell rings at WrestleMania 42 is going to require everything he has. Every ounce of athleticism, every ounce of mental fortitude, every bit of that dog in him that makes him different from the rest. This is not a match you walk into confident. This is a match you walk into prepared. And the preparation has to start now. The brawl that kicked all of this off was just the opening chapter. The real story starts when the WrestleMania sign is hanging above both men, when everything they've worked for their entire careers is condensed into a single match, a single night, a single moment that will define both of them forever. Wrestling Apocalypse is going to be covering every development in this rivalry every step of the way. Every promo, every confrontation, every piece of build that brings us closer to what is shaping up to be one of the most anticipated WrestleMania showdowns in recent memory. Because this channel exists for exactly these kinds of moments, the moments where professional wrestling stops being entertainment and starts being something that you genuinely cannot look away from. Bron Breakker looked Brock Lesnar in the eye and accepted the challenge of a lifetime. And if you're watching wrestling right now, if you have any love for this industry and what it's capable of producing at its very best, you should be watching what happens next with everything you've got. This is Wrestling Apocalypse. And we are just getting started. If this video got you hyped, if you felt even a fraction of the electricity we just broke down together, do me a favor, hit that like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments because I want to know, do you think Bron Breakker can dethrone the Beast Incarnate at WrestleMania 42? Can the new generation finally claim its throne? Let's talk about it. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a single breakdown, a single deep dive, a single moment of wrestling history as it happens. Wrestling Apocalypse. We see the storm coming before everyone else. And this storm? This storm is just beginning.